Joining us now from the Capitol is Nebraska Democratic Senator Ben Nelson and South Dakota Republican Senator John Thune. Guys, welcome to Hannity. Appreciate you staying up late.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, Senator Nelson, I guess if I'm going to start with any bit of credit to the president, he said in a speech a couple of nights ago the word crisis. He used it 26 times. He's talked about catastrophe, crisis, catastrophe. America may not recover. He seemed to take Bill Clinton's advice and get away from all this doom and gloom talk, which I think is a good thing. Do you think he's gone overboard with some of his rhetoric?
No, I think the American people have to know how serious the problem is. Then they can understand how great the challenge is to overcome the problem. And I think he did an outstanding job of doing both, laying out the nature of the problem and how serious it is, but also giving us hope that there is future, the future is bright, and we can make it because we're America.
Senator Thune, we see the consumer confidence was at the lowest level now today since 1967, since they started measuring consumer confidence. Do you think that the president's rhetoric to help get elected, a political campaign, to help pass his massive, quote, spending bill, a political campaign, has contributed to this lower confidence?
I think the president and members of his administration, Sean, have been talking down the economy. It does become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You've seen the market react to that. What I thought tonight was he sounded an optimistic tone. I think he'd been advised that he needs to change his tone and provide some hope and some inspiration for the American people. So in that respect, the speech tonight was good. It was well delivered, and I think he had a right tone and I think probably created some confidence for the American people. It's going to be very hard, however, to deliver on all the things that he promised tonight, and he was very short on specifics and details. And what we've seen with the stimulus bill is $1 trillion, and if these programs are continued, $3 trillion in additional spending. And all the things he talked about tonight are going to cost money. And I think the question you have to ask is, who's going to pay the bill? We asked our children and grandchildren to pay the bill for the stimulus $1 trillion cost, but there are a lot of other programs that he introduced tonight that are going to cost a lot of money.
Well, and I like John McCain's term, Senator Nelson, that's generational theft. Try and explain to me, and I know, Senator Nelson, you've been trying to be a part of this effort to bring a bipartisan spirit to this process. How do you explain or juxtapose the positions that we spend $1.3 trillion full of pork and pet projects? We've got an omnibus spending bill this week debating that's being debated in Washington, 9,000 earmarks. How do we tell the American people that you guys are being fiscally responsible with that kind of reckless spending?
Well, I probably won't answer your question satisfactorily as far as you're concerned, but it's less than 1% of the omnibus. But it's a fraction of what the earmarks were in the past, and now there's not only oversight, but there's transparency to those earmarks. So the challenges in the past have, I think, been met by the changes in this particular approach. And after all, Congress is in a position to direct spending, and to be against earmarks is to favor the big states in many respects against the small states, because if you don't have the ability to directly direct spending by Congress, most of this money will go to the big states. And I don't think that's what America is all about either. I think we have to do it wisely, we have to do it appropriately, and I think we're making inroads into doing a better job of it.
Senator Thune, are you confident that there's a bipartisan spirit in Washington? Do you think the president has fulfilled his promise to reach out to Republicans when in the House they had no say in writing a bill, they had no opportunity to offer amendments or alternative bills? Do you feel that spirit exists, or is this basically one-party rule?
It certainly wasn't the case with the stimulus. They didn't need our votes. They picked off 3 Republicans in the Senate, which was the minimal amount that they needed to get the bill passed. The Republicans in the House had no input. I don't think you're going to be able to, on any of these big pieces of legislation, he's got to involve Republicans if he's going to be able to call it bipartisan. It certainly wasn't the case with the stimulus. But one point about what Ben said earlier, Sean, I think this thing about the spending and the omnibus bill that's now coming through is 8% larger than the appropriation bill last year, which is twice the rate of inflation. That after having already spent $1 trillion on a stimulus bill, which makes some of these agencies, the Labor, Health, and Education bill is 91% larger than a year ago. This at a time time when we're asking Americans to tighten their belts. We just can't continue down this path.
I agree, and I would argue, Senator Nelson, that that's one of the reasons Wall Street has reacted so negatively. I mean, if Wall Street had confidence in Barack Obama's plan, you've got to agree with me that they wouldn't be reacting so negatively to all this. We wouldn't see, our portfolios decline, precipitously on a daily basis, 3%, 4%, 5% or 6% a week. Why isn't Wall Street more confident in what he has been proposing?
Well, I think Wall Street wants another bailout. I think they want more money out of Washington. That's what they're looking for. When you take a look at the amount of money that we've already given to the banks in New York City and across the country, the big banks, sure, they want more. And when there's not a program out there offering them more, and when they're facing insolvency one after another, and when others are suggesting that to bail them out could take at least $2 trillion, they're not going to respond positively
Senator
to what's
Nelson,
going on right now. But today they raised 250 points in the Dow. So maybe there is some hope that things are coming back. I don't know.
I lost half my retirement here. Let me ask you a question. Why can't we all agree that all earmarks should be eliminated? Is that something we could find some bipartisan agreement on, Senator Nelson? All earmarks, would you agree to that?
Absolutely not. That's a big state strategy where the big states get the money. Right now, it's the only way that many of the smaller states have a way.
Would you vote to eliminate all earmarks?
Sean, our hope is in the American people, not in the government. I think the American people would welcome that.
Yeah, I do too. All right, guys, good to see you both.
Small states.
I appreciate it.